This is the CreaseCast.
All right, everybody, welcome. We actually got hockey to talk about. It's CreaseCast 169. Oh wait, no, 68. It's not the fun number just yet.
Not yet.
It's very close though, folks. We're really excited for this. But we actually get hockey to talk about, which is so nice. And as always, it's me, Cody Sievertson, with my co-host, the man that built the place, as they say, Lachlan Irvin. Lachlan, you
Cody.
were on the post game tonight for CanucksArmy.com. Check out his work, CanucksArmy.com at CanucksArmy.com.
Yes.
What did you think of that game? Because before we started recording, I quickly asked you, and then I said, wait, let's not answer this. Let's save it for the show, because it'll probably be more important to talk about it on the show instead of off air. Because if you guys don't know, we actually talk off air. That's what hosts do. They talk to each other. They associate with each other like human beings.
Very minimally.
Very minimally.
We try to keep our distance.
We mostly ask questions to each other, then mute each other, and then we just kind of go about our separate business. But anyway, I was going to ask you, did you find the game boring? Because I don't know, for me, because I had literally gone from work straight home to watch the game, I guess I was kind of tired. And so the early 2 goals against was kind of just like, oh God, it's going to be a chore to get through. But the Canucks were kind of in it. They were, generating tons of shots. Scoring chances weren't in their favor, really. Penalties weren't really in their favor either. So to you, did you find the game exciting, or am I just a weirdo for thinking that game was kind of boring?
I think, you know what? I almost think like you're both, like it's the answer's right in the middle. Like, I feel like you could almost make an argument for both here, where I think there was like a lot going on in that game. Like, I don't think there was it wasn't devoid of like actual action. Like the amount, like the Canucks ended up with 40 plus shots. Like it was not just a game of dump and chase and like very low chance kind of game.
It was high event hockey.
It was high event hockey
for both
for
ends,
sure. Yeah. Yes. I think what it was I think the reason why it might have been boring to some people is it was almost like it was kind of a mixture of a couple things. One, I think, is the start time, like you kind of mentioned, like you just got off work at 4 p.m. or around that time. I'd been up since yesterday. I accidentally stayed up all night working on some stuff. I really need to stop doing that. And then I had a class from 8:30 to 10:30, so I didn't go to sleep until 10:30.
That's
until 10:31. Very bad. It's bad. Don't do what I do, kids, please.
Look, I spent the entire holiday break for like 2 weeks staying up until 3 a.m. and waking up at like 11. And so I don't have any right to criticize you for this, but
I mean,
that is very unhealthy, mister, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Why would you do that to yourself before school?
Because I don't know. I've got too many things that I'm working on. I like working, but I also hate working.
Was it a remote class too?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thankfully, it was only Zoom classes, so I didn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Maybe that's maybe it's better in person. But like right now, for anyone who doesn't know, obviously with Omicron, classes at most schools are back to Zoom, at least for like the first month, and then they're hoping to go back to in-person classes eventually.
I figured that maybe because you were remote and on Zoom, like you'd be more inclined to just pass out during the class.
Oh, I was definitely dipping in and out of consciousness throughout the entire class. Yes. Like there were definitely multiple times where I felt myself falling asleep and then did the whole like, oh, your body just jolts back up and you're like, God, they probably all saw that and are probably laughing at me because it's a Zoom thing.
All your classes at BCIT are in that like the journalism and radio broadcast building, right?
Yes.
There isn't, you don't have like classes in like I think it was like NW6 or something like that.
No, there's like 100 other buildings on BCIT campus that I will never ever venture into because all my classes are in the same place.
Back when I was at BCIT, there was this one building where my first class for one semester, I had a class that was at 7:30 in the morning. It was so early, and for whatever reason, they put us in this dark auditorium at 7:30 in the morning.
Oh,
and so it was like you'd go there, you'd rush to get there because, of course, everyone would sleep in. It's like impossible to get there, and it would be dimly lit, and it was all about computer electronics. So they would have to dim the lights so they could do everything on projectors and screens or whatever. So it was pitch black at the first thing in the morning, and I could never stay awake. And
Yeah, it's almost
our
a test of your resolve. Like that's part of the class is testing that you can stay awake for those
yeah,
things.
the prof even knew it too. He was kind of like, "Look, I know this is so early. Like, just try not to snore. Get as much coffee or energy drinks as you need. But just so you guys know, I know this isn't really good. But it's going to be an open book final exam just because of how like inconvenient the scheduling worked out this year. So shout out to I can't remember his name. It was like Bob something or other, but he rocked. He was fun.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's a little throwback to the old BCIT days. But anyways, let's
yeah.
not talk about
Let's not
school because school will put our
School
audience
is
to
school
sleep.
is school is definitely boring. But
It's
yeah,
true.
the 4 p.m. start time definitely threw me for a loop. I wasn't expecting to do post game, so that threw into that threw into it a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But that kept me more alert and like focused on the game, which I might not have been otherwise. I definitely would have been pretty checked
You've
out.
just been completely out of it.
I would have been out. Like you would have been like calling me like 10 times trying to wake me up for this. And I'd be like, all right, 7 o'clock. I
I,
just got my full 8 hours.
I kind of thought of that too. I was like at work and I had so much to do because I was like on catch up duty, and a part of me was like, man, what if? Because you told me I'm gonna have a nap since I haven't slept in like 25 hours or whatever, and I was like, what if he doesn't wake up and I have to do a solo show? And what if the game sucks and I have to try and discuss like them getting blown out 5-2 to start a road trip after what was it, 3 weeks off since their last game, something like
Yeah.
that. Like I was like, this is gonna be brutal. But fortunately, you're alive, you're well, you're awake, and
Yeah.
with us for the time being
For now.
until
Yeah.
until I go on too long of a rant. And you see, if you're
You
watching the
just seem
YouTube channel
you
on
seem to
CreaseCast YouTube, you just seem
you're pretty loud. You'd probably keep me. I'd probably be able to say, I guess you could say I'm always tired not wearing the
oh,
sweater.
I am wearing the
I
sweater
saw
actually.
you wearing the sweater. I was like, oh, good time to plug that.
I actually
Um,
didn't plan this, but I realized that Oli Ulevi was in the lineup tonight for
that's
Florida, and I
right.
was like looking down. I'm like, man, what a season turnaround for Oli Ulevi. Like, I was kind of
Good
thinking
for
about this
him.
actually after the Lamico goal because I was like, I wonder how he feels knowing he got traded from like this absolute monster of an East Coast team that looks like really poised to make a run in the playoffs this year to Vancouver, and how bad they were to start the year. And then Yul Levy, who everyone was like, he's never going to play in the NHL again, just casually playing like 16 or 17 minutes for Florida tonight, mostly with like Aaron Ekblad and stuff. You're just like, what a
Uh,
reversal of
Are we
fortunes.
are we the bad guys? Like
Yeah, for sure.
like the Canucks like again like previous Canucks management going, are we the bad
Yeah,
guys?
are
Are we
we
the
the
baddies?
baddies?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
like that's how it ends up going every time. But you can only be happy for him, right? Like good for him.
good for him. I guess we'll get right into it. Who would you have picked for the Infinity Blocker? Obviously, aside from Thatcher Demko, because like we
Yeah.
said earlier in the season, he's just the de facto Infinity Blocker getter because he's just so good. What do we say? He's the Power Stone, and then like everyone else is just like the little piddly shit gems that
Yeah,
are
like
attached.
he's either the Power Stone or he's like the Space Stone or something like that. That
Hmm.
kind of, or like maybe he's Mind for Vision, like because Vision is like the all-knowing guy who can pick up
Right.
Mjolnir. Like Thatcher Demko could pick up Mjolnir, is what I'm saying. I think I've made that reference too. Him and Hoaglander as well.
Who did not have a good game tonight.
Hoaglander didn't look as good. Like, I mean, the whole group like didn't look particularly good. But here's the
Yeah.
thing that I will say, like, as we kind of get into this, like, if I were to give the Infinity Gauntlet out, which I did kind of in the top in like top performers on Canucks Army, I gave it
Hmm.
to Jason Dickinson simply because of the fact
Fair.
that the goal itself wasn't necessarily like a a brilliant individual effort or anything. Anything Connor Garland really kind of set that up. And Connor
Hmm.
Garland had a pretty good game for himself, but that's another guy
Yeah.
who kind of has him all the time. Dickinson's that was only his second goal since October 21st. Like it's been hard for him to find
and
offense.
and it's
It's
his first one on an actual goaltender too. I think they said. Like
something like
one of
that.
his goals since then was an empty netter, so it's like
Oh,
he
the
hasn't
one
actually
goal against
scored
the
on a
Sharks?
goal.
That's
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
it was. He was having a hard time, and, like, even on that goal, it was like a case of it was a bit of a weird one because it would have been, Mackenzie Weegar or somebody in front of the net got a piece of his stick as he took the shot, and Bobrovsky did not have his pad flush to the ice because he thought the shot was coming up higher, and it went underneath him and in. And so he kind of got a little bit of a lucky bounce, but that's kind of the thing that doesn't, when you're on a cold snap the way that Dickinson has been for so long. Like,
Mhm.
that's sometimes the hardest goal to get is that kind of greasy, lucky goal. And he got it, and he's been working for it. Like, he had undoubtedly been putting in the effort and trying to get that goal for a while, and just the bounce wasn't getting there. So for it to finally pay off for him, that was good. Like, it was good to see that for him.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny because I tweeted out a picture of his intermission interview where it was like first goal, and then it was like for like they didn't need it, but they included his ice time from the first period, and it was like 4 minutes. And it's like why you gotta do that to them? You know, he's doing his best. Just highlight the goal and be like first goal in X games, so it looks like good for him for overcoming. But it's just like first goal, he barely plays because he hasn't been good enough. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that to him. Come on. Jason Dickinson's a cool dude. He's
Yeah.
just really had a rough go with Vancouver and hasn't really found his like footing at all
Yeah.
since joining the team.
He's been one of the rare guys that hasn't really meshed well in either the Travis Green team or the Boudreau team. Like, he
Yeah.
hasn't found his fit there in either case yet. He's getting closer with this group now than he
Hmm.
had been prior. Like, he has 2 goals, I believe, technically in his last 5, I guess, in this case. But
Yeah.
it's still a ways to go. Like, he's still kind of in that spot where it's like it's not going as well as you'd hoped, especially considering he did just sign a contract extension. Not an outrageous one by any stretch,
Yeah,
but
like
definitely different, but definitely something.
he doesn't make like an outrageous amount of money. Like I don't think anyone was really dying or killing themselves over like how much money Jason Dickinson's getting made. And the only real issue is that like relative to his very small income, like he's just not really doing anything. That's all. Like he'd be fine if he like produced like 12 points at the end of the year. You'd be fine. Like whatever. He's making like $1 million or whatever it is, or 1,500,000. Like who cares? But under Travis Green, all he really was doing was taking penalties. Like he just didn't do anything. And now he stopped taking penalties under Bruce Boudreau, but like he's still like not producing any points. So it's just kind of like, what do you do? What would you say you do here for Jason Dickinson? But kudos to him. He gets a goal. Maybe that's the start of something beautiful.
Yeah.
I was just checking the NHL scoreboard, and so for those that don't know, the Canucks are on an Eastern Swing road trip. So on this trip, they play Tampa tomorrow, and then they play Nashville.
Carolina and Washington.
Yes, all 5 of them are leading the NHL.
Yeah, they're all top. They're all right now. As of right now, they are the Canucks on this road trip will have played 5 teams in the top 6. The only one
Ooh,
not being the Rangers, who another team that I did not know was doing particularly well. But yeah,
me
they
neither. We were
play
very
Tampa.
hard on them in
Yeah,
our season predictions, I
I
believe.
believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay is up next, and they are
And,
tied with the Panthers for points, albeit with 2 games in hand. Then it's the Hurricanes, who are third. It literally goes from like easiest to hard,
yeah,
like hardest to
like
easiest
ramps up
in
or
I
ramps
think
down.
in
Sorry.
perfect perfect order. Where after that it's
Yeah.
Washington, who's 5th in the NHL with 49 points, and Nashville, who's currently the top team in the Western Conference with
As
40
we
points.
all expected.
As we all predicted.
I'm gonna have to revisit a lot of my takes because I was very hard on Nashville for their off-season direction, and I thought
I,
it was just a mess.
I think
Same
I
thing with
was
New York,
too.
right? Like I think you and
Yeah.
I were both just like, what are both of these teams doing? Like this seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And specifically for Nashville, I think you and I were like,
They're rebuilding.
why did they trade Victor Arvidsson to protect some ECHL plug in Tanner Jeannot? And Tanner Jeannot is like getting Calder considerations because he's got like
Oops.
25 points. He's got like almost 15 goals in 30 games. Like it's like makes no sense.
You want to talk about great goaltending performances? UC Saros, like who looked like who you wondered if maybe that was going to be a bit of a flash in the pan because of previous like outings for him and like seasons for him. He has been even better arguably this year than he was last year. Great to see. I love when short goaltenders go in and are able to prove that they can do the job just as well as the big guys. So like, yeah, good for him.
Oh, speaking of that, Nashville just beat Colorado 5-4 in overtime.
There you go.
Off of
Colorado is an interesting team. We talked about it on the last show.
Yeah, so for perspective, like the Vancouver Canucks are probably going to lose every single game against Colorado for the next couple years. And Nashville pushed these guys to overtime. Granted, they'd given up a 2-goal lead early, but they're playing out of their mind. You know what I thought was surprising when I was checking in on Nashville, seeing how Smashville was doing? Matt Duchene has 31 points in 32 games.
Holy cow, good for him.
After 2 seasons in a row where it looked like he was just like a complete wash. Like just no hope.
Or at least just like paid too much for what he is.
Just the typical Nashville center, overpaid for what they bring to the table. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But besides Nashville beating Colorado tonight, Tampa also won tonight against the Buffalo Sabres by a grand score of 6-1. The Canucks, that is, play Tampa tomorrow night. And I'm sure they'll rebound a bit from Florida's performance. It's not like the Canucks played terrible. Like they just really like when Florida's going, they can score just like and create these set plays out of nowhere. They just fly with speed. Like the one goal that Sasha Barkov scored where he like raced around Oliver Ekman-Larsson for the breakaway. Like just insane speed. And besides their individual speed, like with their ability to just like create like cross slot passes and like one-time chances, like it's outrageous. And every time they got one of those, it seemed like it went in the back of the net. And that's not even like a criticism of Thatcher Demko. It's just like how good Florida is. And Florida, a lot of times this year, I think they beat Tampa something like 9-2 in one of their outings, or like 10-5. Like it was their high scoring.
Bit of an asterisk on that one because I think they were missing both Andre Vasilevsky and Brian Elliott to COVID.
Right, it was like Max Lagasse or whatever.
Their poor like third or fourth string goaltender coming into a team that's like completely riddled with COVID, and they had no chance. So a little asterisk, but like they've been very good. They've been very competitive.
Well, speaking of asterisks, the Florida Panthers even had an asterisk tonight because they were missing a lot of guys from their lineup. Like Joe Thornton wasn't available. Owen Tippett wasn't available. There's someone else I'm missing. Marcus Nudavara.
Was Mason Marchman in there? No, right?
No, he was and there was another defenseman of theirs that was out of the lineup, hence why Ole Juolevi was playing. So it's kind of like an asterisk both ways. Like Canucks obviously were coming off a big layoff. They didn't have that game against Ottawa as like a tune-up. And I think Florida's played like twice now since January 1st or 3 times. So they're like, they're going, whereas Canucks are just trying to regain their footing a bit. It's just like a really inconvenient timing to be trying to regain your footing in against like a meat grinder of opponents. It's not going to get easier.
It's a full gauntlet. Like you're coming into a situation where you are going up against straight up the best teams in the NHL. And also, you know what? I'll say this though, like you mentioned it right at the top there, that like the Canucks didn't play particularly badly at all. Like there wasn't a point where I was like watching them and I was like, oh, they completely shot themselves in the foot, or like they made some mistakes for sure, but that happens every game.
That happens
like
every Canucks game.
There was nothing egregious about any of the way they were playing. They were just clearly up against a team that is much, much better than they are. And like we talked about it before, like it's incredible, like how different the Panthers have gotten in the last 2 years, where they went from being like just like it went from being one of those games that you're just like, okay, easy win, chalk it up. Like that was, or it's just like, this is the game that I'm not going to watch or something like that. That one, in like
Yeah.
any game against the Devils for me, I was just like, oh, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
The Devils are unwatchable.
yeah.
As
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I don't even know half their players. And for a long time, the Panthers were like either like the easy to beat team or like the game that was getting buried in the schedule because it wasn't an interesting matchup by
It
any
would
stretch, because the
it
Panthers
would
were
be
so
the
bad for so long.
Yeah, it would be I think the pre-pandemic game, I think they would play Sundays at like 10 a.m. our time,
Yeah.
like in the Pacific time
Yeah.
zone, just because nobody's watching. Nobody
Yeah.
gives a crap about
Even
Florida.
Even tonight's technically a bury because it's a
Yeah.
Tuesday night. It's a Tuesday nighter, like
Yeah.
at 4. Like it's definitely buried in the NHL schedule as far as they're concerned too. And
Yeah.
like you go back to the years where Luongo was on the Canucks, like those years where the Canucks were clearly just absolutely just smacking the Panthers around every
Yeah.
time they played them. It wasn't interesting. It was never a good game. It was always just like, okay, we're gonna watch
Mhm.
one team just get absolutely dismantled, and that's it.
Uh,
And tonight the Panthers looked like God. They looked like one of the best teams I've seen in a while. Like they were just running, like they weren't getting necessarily the most chances, but the quality of those chances that they were getting were so good. Like
yeah.
I haven't seen anything like I don't think I saw anything like that from any of the teams the Canucks played last year in the North Division. I don't think I've seen that
No.
from any teams, even when Tampa came to town in 2019-20 before the bubble. Like,
Mhm.
I don't remember seeing a team kind of just play with that. Oh, it's almost like you're watching the Harlem Globetrotters when they move the puck around. Like it's
Yeah.
it's a sight.
Because there's been a ton of games in the Canucks' recent history, like the last year and a half, where it's been just a complete firing gallery, where the
Yeah.
Canucks are just getting shelled over and over by shot attempts from all over the ice. But this was one of those games where there wasn't many shot attempts from Florida. Like it wasn't a lot of volume, but the chances they did create were just looked like this should be like a 12-0 game just
Yeah.
based on like the quality looks that they were generating for themselves, like seemingly every single shift. And like poor Canucks defenseman, like Quinn Hughes, I almost want to give him the gauntlet, even though he didn't like end up on the score sheet. Like
You can.
he did his best, and I want to say this is one of the first games where I've really seen him actively just like giving up defending and just trying to score for the team, like trying to do it all for them because nothing was getting generated by the forward groups. The Horvat line looked pretty rough. Like I didn't think
I
Horvat had
didn't
a
notice Horvat.
particularly good
Yeah,
game.
no. I didn't notice
Um,
Horvat much out there, and that's always concerning for me.
yeah, usually that's like kind of like the barometer, right? Like if Horvat's noticeable, they're probably going to have an okay performance as a team. But if you don't notice him at all, like it's probably going to be a pretty rough night.
Mhm.
Patterson, that line, just didn't see him at all. Connor Garland was trying, which is good.
Bottom
Hoglander
6
tries
pulled
a
their weight.
lot.
Yeah, they
Bottom
did a
six
pretty good job.
finally showed up, which is good. But yeah,
Yeah.
like some of the stars that they needed them to show up big, like were just
They
I don't know.
couldn't.
They
They
just
didn't
didn't do
have the
anything.
horses. They
Yeah.
didn't have the horses to keep up with what Florida was throwing at them. Like Florida has like so many pieces, like not necessarily guys like where like big names or anything. Like they're just a really well-oiled machine. Like they've really
Yeah.
got it down to a science what makes them good. Like you
Mhm.
mentioned the Barkov goal where he just completely bypasses Oliver Ekman-Larsson like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, Oliver Ekman-Larsson's not the fleet-footed defenseman he once was, but Barkov's going to do that to 99% of the defensemen in the NHL because of how good and how fast he is. That's
Yeah.
not necessarily indicative of what OEL is. It's entirely indicative of what Barkov is as a player. And like you
Mhm.
look at Huberdeau, who's just like out there just making everything happen. Like he's one of those guys that flies under the radar a little bit because he's not
Because he's
Barkov
in Florida too.
and because he's in Florida, bingo. And I think Drancer brought it up tonight that he feels like Huberdeau is better than Mikko Rantanen as like
Well,
the
of course
offensive
he
leader,
says that though. He's the
the form
biggest
the
Florida homer in the
Florida
fucking
man.
planet.
Florida man.
A part of me is like, I really hope Florida doesn't do anything with their skill right now, because I can't stand Thomas Strance's commentary on how great the Florida Panthers are. Like,
See,
that's like I'm
as
gonna have
someone
to
who
mute
just
him.
bought a
I'm gonna have to
Panthers
mute him.
jersey, I'm all for it. Like,
Yeah, but your
no,
jersey's cool, and it doesn't mention how you worked for Florida every second every second and chance you get. And I
I
don't know if I
mean,
can do a full off or playoff season of
to be fair, we do mention that we did the Botchford project pretty often, and I mentioned Canucks Army all the time. How different
That's a
is it,
bit
really?
different, though. That's a bit different,
Eh,
though. It's a
a
bit
little bit,
like
I guess.
it's a bit like uh some guy, or you know what it is? It's Andy from The Office when he's talking about
Cornell.
Cornell, and he's like,
That's
"Ever heard
right.
of it?" Like, that's what it comes off like.
And
It's a
then,
lot
like,
of
and then all
lot
the
of
other characters
Sasha
talk.
like he's saying the name Sasha Barkov, hoping you don't know what Sasha Barkov is,
Yeah.
and he can
I
say, "Ever heard of him? I
Yeah.
have."
After that game, I walked straight out of the Thomas Drance media room, and I went
Yeah, yeah,
like, and I interviewed those players. Like,
yeah. I talked to them and I got them their room service that they needed. No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
it's my
We
old,
love Tom. We love
yeah, we
Thomas
love
Strantz.
Drancer. We got to get him on the show.
He gave us some good pep talks on our Botchford Project nights, but it's really funny to
Yes.
rib him for his blatant homerism on his former team that he worked for as the PR manager, which is very funny.
Until of course we need him to help recruit Roberto Luongo to come be
Yeah,
the GM of the
that's right.
Canucks. I
Yeah.
mean, hey, look, Ian Clarke. There was the picture of Ian
There's the
Clarke
picture.
and Lou talking. Ian Clarke, former goalie coach for Lou
Book it.
back in the day. He's coming home, as they say.
You know what they're probably talking about? Luongo's like, "Hey, how's that rookie goaltender of yours, Mikey something?"
Oh
And
no.
Ian Clark's like, well, actually, he hasn't been playing a lot lately because he sucks."
Oh dear.
You wouldn't believe it, Bobby, but last year, instead of playing him games, they sat him on the taxi squad all season. I practiced with him, but it didn't amount to anything, and now he sucks.
Yeah, Jesus. It's been a rough go for poor Mikey. But yeah, I gotta hope Luongo's gotta be looking at that team like, God, I could fix them. I could fix them so quickly. Like,
I,
come on.
if
Come on.
anything, I think he's probably looking at Florida, and he's like, why would I leave this
Oh,
team
for sure.
to
Like
go
100%.
join that dumpster fire?
Like them, and like obviously the real candidate for Lou right now is Montreal. Why would you leave for, like, even if it is your
Yeah.
home province and everything? Why would you
Mhm.
leave the Panthers right now when you're probably about to get, you might come close to getting a cup ring? Like,
Well,
no, you stick it out. Like, go
it
for it.
seems like the perfect like situation too. It's because it's obviously like it's great weather 99% of the year. You're in a market that isn't really focused on, because Tampa Bay's there too, and they probably get more of the press because they've won back-to-back cups, and I mean, hell, they might go for 3 this year.
And they're not playing
So
in a suburb like 45 minutes out of the actual major metropolitan city.
yeah, and like you don't have the media scrutiny. You're pretty much like given free reign to develop the team. They don't have a huge budget, but like they're encouraged to find creative ways to stockpile their team through the draft or through free agency.
Yeah.
And like they don't spend a ton of money on their team. And just like it's like a by committee thing where they've got a crap ton of guys, like 6 or 7 or 8 or maybe even 9 players on their team making like $1 million or less, and they're like all producing.
Yeah.
Like looking at like their stats page, and it's like you have to go down to like the 22nd guy to find someone who doesn't have 5 points. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. I will say, like, in terms of Luongo, we've done this, we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think it remains the same, that like if Roberto Luongo wants to become a GM in the NHL, I think he knows he has to go somewhere else to do it, because
Probably, yeah.
obviously Bill Zito's not going anywhere anytime soon. So you're not going to get the Panthers job. So if this is indeed what you want to do, if you do
Mhm.
100% want to be a GM in the NHL, it's almost undoubtedly going to mean going to some other market in some other city, whether that's Vancouver, whether that's Montreal, whether that's, I don't know, the Kansas City Coyotes next year. Like, you're going to have to go somewhere else to do it.
Do you
And
think
I
do you
think I
think
look
they'll
at
move?
Vancouver. What do you think the Coyotes? I mean, hey, I have the article here in front of me where it's where apparently the odds on them getting the arena in Tempe are not good. They don't have the votes. And you know why? It's because of the thing where they didn't pay their taxes to Glendale recently. It's almost like you needed to
Who knew?
It's almost like you need to have good upstanding with the community.
With the community that
when
you're trying to get
more
votes
money
from.
out of them.
Yeah.
Like, what a damn surprise. Like, literally, they talked about, like, literally, it's the whole thing of, like, yeah, when that came out, they really lost a lot of confidence from the Tempe voters. And it's like,
no shit,
or like from like the city council. It's like, yep, no surprises there. I wouldn't give them money. Like, yeah, I'm very much in the, I don't know if I'm in the, I think they're 100% going to move camp. I am in the I 100% want them to move because I'm sick of the Arizona Coyotes.
Speaking of, actually, did you read the John Chayka article he put out this morning?
I hadn't gotten a chance to fully read it yet, but you talked about it on Twitter, so I have the link up. I just haven't gotten a chance to read it yet.
It's like a non-story because it's not even him talking about his time in Arizona. I think my tweet was TLDR, which means too long, didn't read. John Chayka says, leadership is hard. # stay humble. Like, that's all it is. There's nothing about like the challenges he's faced, why he left, his relationship with ownership, what he really learned. It was just him saying over and over again for like 12 paragraphs that, wow, I learned about myself because leadership is hard. Wow.
I mean, I have to imagine there's some there's some confidentiality agreement. Yeah,
he got
probably.
fired. Usually when you get fired, you don't really get an NDA.
Did he? No, because he resigned. Remember, he didn't get fired. He resigned.
Oh yeah, well,
so
I guess
maybe
he
there's
he technically quit, but then the Coyotes put out their thing being like, remember, like there was that
the whole
statement they put
basically
out.
that
he turned his back on the
an evil
team.
backstabber and traitor.
It was like Alex
and a
Marullo
stinky
wrote
dork,
it himself.
Like
and it was very like unprofessional, and it was like
they've done that a few times.
I can't imagine that Alex Marullo is the type of like cool-headed guy that if some guy quits on the team, he'd be like, make sure he's got in his disclosure that he can't talk about why we fired him. Like, he strikes me as the type that would just be like, get him the fuck out. I hate that guy. Here's my statement saying how much I hate him. But anyway,
I don't know. But this is
really
about the
funny.
Coyotes. Yeah, it is very funny. But this is
it is funny to talk about the Coyotes though, because they're just like such a train wreck. But yeah, I mean, I'm the same boat as you though. I want them to move because I'm done hearing the NHL like defend them and pretend everything is fine. It's
like, I'll take Houston, I'll take Kansas City. I want Quebec, but I'll take those other two if it means I don't have to talk about the damn Arizona Coyotes again. I'm sick of it.
Give me anything on the East Coast. Like, I don't care. It's just, I don't want to hear Bill Daly in his interviews being like, oh, we're really proud of the market there. It's like, no, you're not.
What
you
market?
Don't care.
There is none.
like the 5,000 fans in Tempe and like the 2,000 in Glendale. Yeah. Like, who cares?
You ask people on the street, what do you think of the Arizona Coyotes? And they just go, well, I hate that they keep pawing through my garbage. Like,
they keep knocking over my trash bins.
They keep howling in the middle of the night, and it's really annoying. Like, they're not going to talk about the damn hockey team. They're talking about the like animals.
Yeah, they're talking about the local wildlife problem. They don't give a shit.
They're just talking about wildlife issues. Like, no, like, come on, get out of here. Like, no, it's not going to happen there. I'm done with it. I'm done with it unless they move like into downtown Phoenix. Like, I'm done with it. But yeah, as far as like the Canucks are concerned, like I think that the good thing that's going to come out of this road trip at the very least, even if let's say all the results go something along the lines of this, where they just get clearly outmatched and outclassed, and every single game it ends up around that same scoreline.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you ask management about that, or you talk to most fans, I think they're fine with that the way that it is. Because for starters, the way that they lost tonight, like we said, they didn't lose because they were particularly bad. They just lost because they clearly aren't as good a team. And that wasn't for a lack of try. They really were putting in an effort. And there have been the last time the Canucks got really blown out, which I guess would be the Colorado game, maybe the Vegas game, depending on who you ask, and depending on what you consider a blowout. it's that in those games, they just looked lifeless. Like they didn't care. They were completely checked out. There was no interest in trying to make an interesting game out of it. Whereas tonight, even when they were down 5-1 at one point, they didn't like roll over. They didn't just go away. They kept pushing. They kept trying to create offense, which is again a vast improvement from the first part of the year where they definitely wouldn't have, and they would just completely collapse in on themselves a bit. And I think I think that in itself is good, and that's fine for now for what this team is. And then you look at the fact that like if you can't compete with the rest of with those top echelon teams at the NHL, but you get to kind of find that out in this kind of a way, that's good because it gives you a realistic outlook on what the rest of the year is going to look like. And I think management knows that. Like they've been talking about this road trip and how important it is for how they approach the rest of the season and how what their game plan is going into the trade deadline and into February and April and beyond kind of thing, right? So I think it's better for the Canucks that as long as we're getting real results out of this, it isn't like a case where they're say accidentally win a couple 4 fluky games in the middle of like a weird road trip where they happen to catch a bunch of teams sick or or just decimated by injuries. They're catching all these teams. They're getting all these teams when they're healthy or playing at their absolute best. So you get an actual accurate gauge on where the Canucks are. If they came out and absolutely wowed you against Florida tonight, do it again against Tampa, Carolina, Washington, then you could actually go and say, oh, this is actually a pretty good team. This does actually have playoff potential. I can see
maybe I don't need to blow it up.
Exactly. And even then, like, it's not even necessarily a blow it up case. It's just a case of like, all right, we got some good stuff going.
We have a better idea of what our team is capable of through this 5-game road trip. Whereas I think Bruce Boudreau had said, on the same page as Jim Rutherford, like this road trip that we're expecting in January is going to be the measuring stick where we really kind of come back to earth and get an idea of what our team is. And sure enough, right after the first game, it's like, okay, we kind of got our shit kicked in and we kind of understand, okay, this is where we're at. And it's not so deflating that you need to be like, okay, trade Horvat, trade Miller, trade Demko, trade everybody, trade Patterson for a bag of pucks. We need to start from scratch, but it's like at least okay, well, this is how one of the best teams in the league is doing it. How can we change our cap structure and our roster construction so that we can compete with them on a night-to-night basis? And hey, maybe they eke out an overtime loss against Tampa or Nashville or whatever. But Jim Rutherford has always been kind of like lukewarm on the team, where he's been like, well, I'm not sold on this team yet, and I'm not going to know for another 2 months, so I'm not going to make any decisions till then. It would be very funny if, like, after tonight's game, like all of a sudden a bunch of trades get made. Like you just like immediately is like, yeah, this team sucks. Fuck this. I'm starting from scratch. Or after losing to Tampa, like then there's just like, okay, Niels Hoglander too short. Yep, he's out of here. Need a real defenseman.
Time to go get Phil Kessel again. Like,
hey, Phil Kessel. I was thinking about this on the drive home. Actually, I was like, Phil Kessel would be like a decent, like, not this year because he's still got like millions owed to him, I think. But like, if you could Joe Thornton him and get him for like league minimum, you'd totally do it.
Oh, for sure. Phil Kessel's a very talented player, but he's always like a last piece. He's not like
you're not building around him.
Toronto learned the hard way. Like if you're building around him specifically, you've probably not done yourself a favor. You need to still find more talent surround him with more talented players. But yeah, like the Canucks are in a spot where they're very much going up against the best teams. They're going to be able to punch above their weight class, which is good. Like for what you want, for like, it shows that they're closer than they might have seemed at the beginning of the year, where it is just a case of, okay, we need to patch holes here correctly and accurately, largely with younger guys who can keep up with speedier teams like Florida and Tampa. But if that's how you end, if that's what you get out of this road trip, then you have like set yourself up better for next season when you will be able to compete a little bit better and there will be more money on the table. There'll be more room to do something, like to really build something good out of that unit that you have. And I don't see how really any scenario here, provided that you're seeing the Canucks keep putting in the best possible effort, clearly competing with these teams and giving Thatcher Demko a little as much help as they can, which they kind of did. They did not too terribly with tonight. There were a couple miscues by Tucker Pullman and Tyler
There's
Myers.
always going to be those with Tucker.
But that's
Pullman.
that's the free space on the bingo card. Like you just gotta assume that's coming.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah. Outside of that, they looked fine. I think they did as best they possibly could against this kind of a team. And I'm not looking at them like in any worse way than I was before the Boudreau boost began. They're looking pretty good here, even now that it's gone.
Yeah, I think most people probably expected them to lose to at least Florida. At the very least, most people were like, yeah, they're probably gonna lose. It's gonna happen, whatever. It's still not gonna kill my enthusiasm for the team moving forward. But I mean, maybe if they lose all 5, then you're kind of like, ooh, this isn't good. This isn't fun anymore.
If they I do think the Canucks have it in them to win at least one or two, maybe even 2 of these,
Probably
out of the group. I could see them taking Nashville because the big equalizer is the goaltending department. UC Saros can win a lot of goaltending battles. I think against Thatcher Demko, it's a much more even matchup in that regard. The Predators definitely have a little bit more of the offensive weapons than the Canucks do at the moment, but I can see the Canucks being able to kind of handle the Predators pretty well. Even like Washington, I think Washington is an older group, and I think that the Canucks have a little bit more of the where they don't have enough youth and speed against, say, teams like Florida and Carolina. I think they do against Washington, where they're where they're still mostly made up of that older Cup core from 2018. Yeah. And I think they can handle that, the Capitals, decently. I think those are your 2 best chances at winning. But yeah, I don't see, even if they went 0-5, provided that the effort was good and that they actually were playing there was a clear, they lost based on circumstance, not lack of effort or lack of try or lack of talent. I can see this still coming out of it. Compared to how the year started, I'll take this over that terrible loss to Buffalo any day of the week.
Or the regulation loss to Detroit when they lost 2-0 or whatever it was. Horrendous hockey.
Literally, what would you rather lose a game like the 2-1 to the Red Wings or tonight against the Panthers? I'd take tonight over that one any day of the week.
At least they tried their darndest.
Yeah, at least they put the effort in.
We're kind of burying the lead here a bit because we've been talking about this game for quite a bit. The real, we talk about this a lot. We talk about getting pucks in deep in hockey all the time. It's a cliche. We're always tired of hearing it
today, right?
Yeah, you're probably gonna have to for this one. But what they don't talk about when it comes to getting pucks in deep is just getting anything in deep, especially when you're in the luxury suite next to the Florida Panthers.
The entire Florida Panthers executive branch.
Because that's what Kodak Black did.
Yeah, I wasn't just some random. It was
like a relatively famous rapper out with a I'm not gonna assume what her job title is, but based on her Instagram, I'm going to assume it has something to do with losing clothes for money.
Oh no.
Anyway.
Oh dear, I really hope you're right on that one. That's something to throw out there, you know.
I'm not saying I'm just saying maybe the number 5 orange has heard of her.
Oh, yeah, the number 5 orange.
Yes, not from
the. Have you been there? I never have. I never knew what I didn't know what it was for years. I thought it was just a regular old bar.
I don't want to admit how many times I've been to the 5 on this podcast, but
whoops. Well, you kind of just did. But
It's a good time. Like I'm trying to, like, low-key in some of the writers chats I'm in, I'm trying to convince Dave Quadrelli to go there for his 20th birthday, because it would just be really funny to take this wholesome, sweet, innocent child to this absolute dirtbag bar.
I'd be like,
strip
don't
club.
worry. I'll like be like text him after. I'd be like, don't worry, buddy. We'll go to like McDonald's or something.
Yeah, take you guys to
and
Chuck
like
E. Cheese
soft
after.
serve, like Jesus, like oh man. But yeah, basically somebody
speaking of
caught
on basically speaking of soft serve, Kodak Black was filmed earlier in the intermission, where he was on camera. The NHL official Twitter account tweeted pictures being like, "Oh, hi, Kodak
he's
Black.
at the
What's
game.
up?
Or
He's at the game. We got a
like
famous
just the
celebrity here."
usual.
The usual pandering.
I think Pete Davidson was at a Kings game recently,
Yeah.
and I was like, which player is he dating?
Yeah.
Because he's dating somebody at all
He's gotta date
times.
someone. It's gotta be dating someone
Yeah,
famous.
yeah.
And then some fan from the game tweeted out a video of the intermission, DJ playing a banger, and someone named Kodak Black was also doing a banger, where he was
these get worse, and
his girl was I don't
they were
wanna be
having
rude.
they were having a good time,
an intimate moment.
Yes,
that happened to be captured on camera. Florida Panthers PR executive Thomas Drance said it was a dance move, therefore don't.
Did he actually?
Yeah, he's like, everyone's gonna find out what daggering is, as if like it isn't quite blatantly obvious that it's like a girl really giving it to Kodak Black.
Even if there wasn't, if no clothes came off, like you still know exactly what, at least you still know more or less what's going on.
Yeah,
like
if you've seen videos of daggering and twerking or whatever, that's not what the guy does in that position.
No.
When the girl is bent over 90-degree angle and gyrating in such a way during an intermission in a luxury suite.
Okay, let's just get the clear part out of the way. I don't know the Florida Panthers arena like layout in any way, shape, or form, but I'm pretty sure most luxury suites have a goddamn bathroom, or at least like a private area where where not everyone can see you. Why on earth are you right next to the seats? Like, come on. Come on. There's no way. I almost want to go like look up what their luxury suites look like, because there's got to be like at least like, I don't know, a closet or something somewhere not literally right in front of 18,000 people. It's like when they did that thing. I don't know if you've seen it, but at the Rogers Center ballpark, where the Blue Jays play in Toronto, that big Sky Dome. When they built it, part of the thing they built into it was a hotel. And they built this hotel with a section of rooms that have viewing into the ballpark, so you get a view of the field. And in the early years, a bunch of people didn't realize that the glass wasn't one-way glass, and would just get up to stuff in front of a 50,000 seat stadium for all to see. And literally it got to a point where I believe now when you stay in those rooms, they make you sign waivers saying you will not do anything in front of
the windows.
You won't, like, you don't even think about it. Like, it's one of those things where, because it got like so much attention that like they were like calling them like, oh, they're the sex rooms, the Toronto sex rooms. And it was like, Jesus, you can't do that. And you gotta know, like, there's gotta be at least somewhere like you can do it that's not in front of the whole building.
Like, yeah, okay, so
right next to the Panthers management. Like,
so speaking of,
we're like, oh.
So speaking of, your homeboy tweeted something.
I retweeted that.
Strombone won.
Definitely not future Canucks GM Roberto Luongo.
Hey, he's not gonna be leaving anytime now. Now you can just look left from his presidential suite and see people fucking every game. Like, that rocks.
She's clearly naked.
I know. Like,
I'm looking at it like she's clearly naked. Like, come on.
Her pants or like skirt is clearly like off or like hiked all the way up. Like, come on, bro.
It's like anyone make like if PR is making those excuses, they're doing it in the same way that like parents do when their kid walks in on them by accident.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I just hurt myself. Like he was helping me up. Like that's
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on. Come
I was
on.
I was sick last night. That's why I was moaning.
God damn. Oh
Anyway,
dear.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
please. I really hope if you have kids and you listen to the show, I really hope
yeah, don't. This is not a
we
kid-friendly
should
episode.
maybe we should put a maybe I'll have to put like
Explicit tag.
like a not only explicit tag. We might just have to put in like a timestamp of where you could jump ahead in the
Yeah,
in the show to like to get past this convo. But I'm
yeah.
like I'm watching. I'm like she's clearly naked.
I
Like come
know
on.
it's pretty clear. Anyway,
It's not.
Bobby
Oh,
Lou
good
tweeted
Lord.
out, "PA announcer, please keep your pucks. Please keep your eyes on the puck at all times. Everyone, okay. Kodak, honey, turn around. It's not safe." Oof. Like
Oh
he,
my,
so yeah,
this is
you
my.
gotta
I love
you gotta
this man.
love Thomas
How
Trance
can you?
doing PR while while
How
Bobby
can
Lou's tweeting about how funny it is they're fucking.
how can you not love Roberto Luongo? How can he not be the clear best, like the clear best candidate for Canucks GM? Like he
That
could do
alone, that
like
tweet alone should get him the job.
that alone is the best PR you could do as
Yeah.
a high ranking official of an NHL team. Like come on, like he did it perfectly. If there's one thing Vancouver needs, it's front office people who are good on social media and who are good at handling the public. And Roberto Luongo is all of that and more. Give him the job now. And I'm
My
not just
God.
saying that because I got his jersey for Christmas.
You did. Where did you get your jersey from, by the way?
I got it from Cool Hockey because they were doing a Black Friday sale. I got the Luongo jersey on sale. I can pull it off the wall. You can't see it on the video. It's on our video the way we've got it set up right now. But yeah, it's literally hanging off the wall right now. It's a nice jersey. I actually had a friend of the show tweet me a picture of their Roberto Luongo jersey, which they have autographed from their time they used to hang out in Florida. So that was pretty cool. Like but yeah, definitely an improvement on the jersey I've got. But yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I think the last did you get it on like sale or did you buy like full price?
I bought it on sale. I bought it on sale, like in the sense of, I think what I ended up paying was essentially the same amount for just a blank jersey. I didn't have to pay to get it customized with the name and number on it, and I got it like full stitched. I don't do the heat press.
Yeah.
I get it like fully stitched in because it lasts longer.
Yeah.
And it looks way nicer.
Yeah.
It is a great jersey because these are the prime green ones, like the new ones for this year, and the patches are all like real and like sewn into the jersey. It looks really, really good. Like it looks fantastic. The Panthers have a really good jersey as well. Like I think if you got rid of the
crest
shield,
one.
yeah, like that. Literally, the thing is, like, if you took the shield off the front and just replaced and used that same jersey, but with like the modern Leaping Panther logo, it would be the best. It would be one of the best jerseys in the NHL. It's pretty darn close now, but like the shield is not a. I would say like the shield's not a primary logo. It's an alternate. It's the alternate shoulder patch.
I'm not really a fan of the soccer style like jersey or like the version of the Panther. It just kind of looks goofy.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Granted, a Panther jumping out of the ice while breaking a stick is also very goofy and very 90s comic book stuff. But it's I don't know.
That's more in line with what hockey
looks
is.
better. Yeah, exactly, for sure. All right, shall we get into some non-Kodak Black related sex stuff and
some non-Kodak moments? Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
There's the episode title right there. A Kodak moment.
A Kodak
Beautiful.
moment. There you go.
Oh, that's so perfect. I just want to end the episode on that right now. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure I stole that from somebody. Like I'm sure somebody got there before I did, but
you should definitely tweet that before it's stolen.
Mr.
I mean,
World,
somebody probably already did.
Like,
but I haven't seen it on Canucks Twitter, and that's kind of the most important.
It'll be the title. We'll definitely get the podcast title there for sure before someone else.
Absolutely. Okay, so as you guys probably know, Evander Kane contract terminated by the San Jose Sharks. Allegedly, the reason for the termination of the contract was because he broke COVID protocol by entering into Canada using a fake vaccine card.
Something like that. Like
Something like
Oh,
that.
I should clarify actually. So what it was he had already been sent down to the AHL previously because he had a fake vaccine card.
Mhm.
And tried to get away with that early in the season, and they saw right through it. Didn't work. So he ended up having to get vaccinated and everything, but then he got COVID, and he got put on COVID protocol because he tested positive. He had, I believe, still like a few more days on his protocol before he was allowed to leave quarantine in
Okay.
San Jose. But even with that, he tried to go home to Vancouver, breaking quarantine and protocol to come to Vancouver. And then after which he was supposed to return to San Jose, I believe by the late December or something, and didn't end up returning till January 3rd. So it was like, it was a bunch of things where basically he just defied the team at all turns. And they terminated his contract. And now the big wrinkle in all of this, well, there's two big wrinkles. One being that the NHLPA has filed a grievance, which we can talk about in a second, but he's free to obviously sign a new contract as soon as he wants to now that it's terminated.
Mhm.
And it seems like based on what we were hearing during the intermissions of the Canucks game today, it sounds like he might be an Edmonton Oiler by tomorrow.
Well, if I'm Evander Kane and my option, and I've got all these teams offering me league minimum deals, I am taking it with Connor McDavid, who I can play first line minutes with and score 45 goals or whatever it is, and then carry that into a new contract with a team on the East Coast somewhere. Like
Oh, you
seems
think he's
like a
signing only like a
no-brainer.
1 year? You think he's signing like a 1 year for very low money?
Yeah, like I think he signs a contract that takes him to the end of this year for 1 year, $750K or something like that.
Yeah, whatever league.
Maybe there's like $1 million bonus if he hits like 30 goals or something. Like something like crazy that he wouldn't
Like,
possibly hit, but like
yeah.
just in case as an incentive, maybe he does it then. But it is very interesting that as soon as his contract is out of the equation, suddenly all of his issues as a person are out the window, and NHL GMs are suddenly just completely willing to bend over backwards to try and get him on their team, which is unsurprising. The NHL is very clearly we don't care how piss poor you are morally. We care about what you do for our team on the ice. Even if you hit your wife, if you have gotten away with sexual assault, we don't care.
Allegedly. We gotta say allegedly.
I meant generally, like because there's the Slava Voinov thing,
right? There was
Montreal
that.
tried to get him. Like, oh yeah, that's right.
Montreal tried to get him many times.
They tried to get a lot of people that are terrible.
Thought about it, which is still too far.
Yes. But they were actively trying to trade for Slava Voinov, I believe, after the NHL was like, he is not allowed to play.
Like, no, you can't have him.
Yeah, they're like, no, he is banned from playing in the NHL
what part of
because
ban
he has fled assault charges from his wife. Like, no.
And then had the audacity to basically be like, hey, it all worked out as he was getting his his gold medal at the Olympics. Was like, it worked out for me. Like, literally, I think he said something along those lines.
He said, I believe, I've posted this comment on Reddit before because I was so pissed off when he won the medal, because I think ahead of the Olympic Games, I think some interview was like, oh, now that you're back in the KHL, you actually have a chance to play for the Olympic team, and the competition is so weak that it looks like this is just Russia's gold medal to win. And he made a joke being like, yeah, that's why I did it, was to get out of my NHL contract and to win a gold, that's why he beat his wife.
Jeez.
So he's a complete piece of shit. Fuck everything about him. Fuck the Habs for doing that. And speaking of the Habs, their most recently drafted player, Logan Mailloux, got reinstated by the OHL after a 23-game suspension, which amounted to, because it's junior hockey and these teams play like 3 in a week or 3 games every weekend. He only missed like 2 months of hockey. Yeah, that's all he missed.
Nope.
I know this happened like a while ago, but I'm just figuring I'm on the fuck Montreal train.
We're on the hockey culture has issues that need
Hockey
to be
culture
fixed.
is bad. Speaking of
Yeah.
speaking of the
Yeah.
Habs as well,
Oh
Marc
God.
Bergevin was
Is now working for
hired
the
in
Kings.
LA, which I kind of tweeted about this because I was like Bergevin's biggest failings as a GM is like the exact reason why LA is succeeding right now in their rebuild,
Yeah.
because it's all about efficient contracts. It's about drafting, developing,
Yeah, what's the point of
building out
bringing
an
him in? They're
AHL
doing
team.
fine. Like, why?
They're
Why
doing
they didn't
completely
need more?
fine.
They
I
didn't need him in their front office. They were doing just fine. Rob Blake just got an extension, I believe, too.
Well, I think a lot of people said it's because him and Luke Robitaille are buddies.
Hmm.
So I guess they're just kind of like, oh, you need a paycheck? Sure. I don't know why. I don't think he would, because he'd still
Yeah,
be
I mean, I
paid
don't think they're
to the
doing.
end of the
I don't think
year.
he's gonna do much. Like, the Kings are one of those teams that the way they're built, right? The way they're structured, they're almost in like autopilot essentially. Like they've built a pretty structured group where they're going to get better year over year over year, barring unforeseen circumstances, and they don't really have to do much. They just kind of have to be patient and let it figure itself out, and they'll be a really good hockey team.
Yeah.
So it is weird that they're kind of like, oh, let's bring in Marc Bergevin, the guy who famously made some really bad choices with the Canadians. Let's see how he
A-
does here.
And all recently, within the last like 9 months, like, why would you be like, hey, everything's going great with our rebuild? You know what would really help?
You know what we
The guy
need?
that just torched his team with a bunch of terrible contracts, trades, and draft decisions. Let's
You know
get
what?
that guy.
You know what this hockey team needs? Another straight white man. Let's
Yeah,
go.
exactly. Like,
That's what we're missing.
I
Oh,
know,
that's
like,
what we've been missing forever.
it's been
Like
like what's been dominating the news for the Canucks obviously is like Jim
the
Rutherford being like, I'm interested in like hiring a woman, like someone diverse, like a brand
hiring
new
a
GM candidate, like someone
which
completely
is
different, which would be
fantastic to
great.
hear.
It doesn't seem like he's going to do it, but he
Yeah,
was open
well,
to
like
the idea.
I don't think he's necessarily meant that. Like for based on his language, I don't think he meant that fully. Like in the sense of like the GM role specifically, I think he still plans on going with a
Yeah.
established hockey person for that.
Yeah, fair.
But like I do think he means it in the sense of like building out like all of the other departments that are so bare bones right now that he's like,
Yes.
yeah, we're gonna bring in as many different people from as many different walks of life as we possibly can and try and get them together. Like I believe him when he says that. I mean, I want to see the receipts, obviously, but I do believe him that he says when he says he wants to bring in a more diverse
Yeah.
culture to the front office
Yeah.
around the GM and himself. Yeah.
It will just be very funny when he hires like a straight white man as his GM.
But I hope not. I would I
He probably
I want to
will.
believe. I want to believe.
I do
Like I
too, but
really do.
it's just not going to happen.
But like, so like, we a little off track, but like Evander Kane in particular, I think the one question that we have to ask, literally, with if the Oilers are indeed picking him up, is like you mentioned with all the actual character issues that Evander Kane has. Like we talk, lots of players get basically blackballed from the league for much less than what Evander Kane has done and
Mhm.
has
For
been
sleeping
like
in.
yeah, like has been accused of over the last so many years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that teams just bend over backwards to give him a new deal. But the
Mhm.
question here is knowing what Evander Kane is. And like I used to be a big Evander Kane guy because I loved watching. I went to a lot of Giants games. I remember watching him when he was just a developing kid and he became like one of the Vancouver Giants like prime alumni, like he getting drafted fourth overall, I think, by Atlanta back in, I want to say like 07, 08.
Mhm.
It was a big deal. But looking at what he's turned into now, I think one of the things you know about him is like the fact that he clearly overstays his welcome with other teams, including San Jose, where the whole point of him going to San Jose was this idea that, oh, the Sharks have this built-in leadership system that's going to not take any guff from him. And
Yeah.
he's either going to have to go along with it or he does not, or he ends up going elsewhere, which is kind of what happened here. I mean, in a little bit different because, of course, Thornton went to other places. Marlowe went to other places, like the main guys there. It was outside of Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson. and maybe Vlasic, I guess, like a few other guys.
Right.
It's mostly a younger group now, but still, they didn't want him in the Sharks locker room. They didn't feel comfortable having him in the Sharks locker room anymore. Hence why he got sent down to the AHL. I don't see how that he's going to help an Oilers team in that regard, because they are already a locker room that's famously very fragile right now.
Yeah.
And is fragile whenever the going gets tough. I don't see him being a big help there. And I think you have to ask yourself the question, considering the bankruptcy that he's under, considering all the other the fact that he's been in multiple lawsuits, the other things. I think you have to ask yourself the question: do you actually think Evander Kane is going to try when he's playing for free? Because that's essentially what he is. He's not playing to make it.
Yeah.
He's not getting any of that money that he's signing for. There's no way. It's going to either the bank or his estranged wife or child support. It's not going to him. So do you actually think he's going to give his full effort when he's not getting us, when he's essentially playing for you for free? I don't think he will. I think he will do what he always does, which is try for the first 2 games and then coast for the rest of the season. I think you are setting yourself up for failure in that regard. And if you're Ken Holland, you got to be thinking about the fact of like, God, this is the kind of deal that you get strapped to like a bomb, essentially, right? Like if it doesn't work out, it's hard to ever get that like stench off of you again. You're basically strapping your career to it. And Ken Holland's won a lot of cups, so like maybe he's there. Maybe he's at that point where he's like, I don't care, I've done enough. Like I've won enough things. But
you can never underestimate a GM's willingness to try and salvage a player, or think that they're the guy that's gonna finally get a player to put it all together for them. That was like Jim Benning's entire MO for 8 years. Is he hasn't been doing well in his former team, but he might for us.
But at least in Jim Benning's case, it was just matters of he's not that good.
He's just
at
not
hockey.
performing good enough. But
he's a clearly not a great
just a
person, an
terrible
awful person. No, that's a bit different.
He's just like clearly never going to change. Like
he's clearly never going to change. But enough about Jake Virtanen.
On that note, we'll just close in summary. Congrats to Evander Kane for his contract with the Edmonton Oilers, and for just falling ass backwards into success when you absolutely don't deserve it. So let's get into our last story, which is amazing. Honestly, one of the funniest things. I love that they focused on this during the broadcast tonight. Like it had nothing to do with Florida. It had nothing to do with
it had nothing to do with
Canucks,
Toronto, which is extra shocking.
That was extra shocking. But Bobby Clarke, Philadelphia Flyers legend, senior advisor to the organization, former I think GM, coach, he's done everything for that team basically since retiring as a player. He, of all people, went on a podcast, a Philadelphia Flyers podcast, and decided to take some shots at former GM Ron Hextall. Oh my God. This ignited a huge debate over what teams would do in the 2017 redraft, because Bobby Clarke said Ron Hextall avoided all advice of the Philadelphia Flyers scouting staff and chose Nolan Patrick over Cale Makar. Apparently, all the scouting staff were like, yeah, Makar's our guy. Ron Hextall closed his office door, didn't want to hear any of it, and decided Patrick's the guy. I'm not listening to anybody. Sure enough, just 3 years later, 4 years later, they traded him to Vegas for, was it Cody Glass or...
There's some
weird like three-way deal.
I think they got Ryan Ellis out of Nashville. I think that's how that trade came out, because it was the 3-way deal with Vegas and Nashville, where Nolan Patrick goes to the Knights. The Predators, I believe, they got Cody Glass out of it. Correct.
And then then Philly got Ellis out of it. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So then it went further than that, which makes it even funnier because from Bobby Clarke's own words is Hextall made the choice himself. And then there's other choices in the draft that were made by him that we're still paying for. There's 2 or 3 first round picks that are never going to play, which is like a huge, like,
Which if you're
holy
yeah,
shit
if you're a
moment.
player, if you're one of the players and like, because
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
hear that like, oh,
there's only so many first round picks in an organization.
yeah,
You know which one
yeah,
you are if you're one of them.
and
Like
Hextall was only GM for Philly for like 4
three,
years,
four
3 or
years.
4 years. So it's like it's a really small window. It's like 2015 to 2017, those 3 drafts, and it's like it's not going to be Ivan Provorov or whatever or Sean Couturier in 2014. So it's like it's only like German Rupsov and like some other kid like Isaac Radcliffe or something like that. Like it's just like a really mean condemnation from this old
Like if
man,
you're
which
on
is
the Lee Valley Phantoms or whatever, and you're
yeah,
one of
you're
those
just like,
guys,
oh,
you're listening to it, you're like, wow, he's really. Hey, wait a minute.
hey, that's
You're like,
about me.
that's not very nice. Like
Yeah.
that was kind of rude.
And then it goes
You
further.
Broad Street bully.
This is like all one podcast, and then Bobby Clarke like concludes. I'm sure there's more, but he basically says Philly had the chance to get Ryan O'Reilly from Buffalo back when Buffalo was shopping him for like bags of pucks, and I guess Hextall had no interest in it, and he didn't even consult the scouts on it at all because I'm sure you could have been like, "All right, who can we give up from our prospect pipeline to try and get O'Reilly?" Because as everyone knows, Buffalo got nothing for O'Reilly when they traded him to the Blues. It was like Tage Thompson and then 3 players that amounted to absolutely nothing for the organization. Like it's one of the worst trades in the history of the NHL. It was that bad.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
Naslin Stoyanov bad.
it
Like
it's even worse because Ryan O'Reilly is still like one of the best like centers in the game. And the fact that like he netted 4 players and a pick in the trade, and Tage Thompson is just now, like 4 or 5 years later after the trade, finally providing some kind of net return for the Buffalo organization. Like
yeah,
this is just
one of the
so
players
bad.
up and left because he didn't want to play
He
for
was just like,
Buffalo.
"Fuck this," and then he ended up being like a rapist in Sweden. So
Wait, what?
yeah,
Are you
Patrick Berglund.
wait, is that really? I didn't
Yeah,
hear about that. I almost feel like we need to pause the show. I've not heard this.
yeah. Here, I can look it up right now. Patrick Berglund. He was
Oh
traded.
my god, I have
Yeah,
not heard this. But oh Jesus Christ. Well, never mind. Buffalo dodged a bullet there. Jesus.
yeah. Not
God.
a good dude.
Right.
They dodged a bullet. Total shit heel. Sucks for Buffalo though, because obviously, I mean, you would have wanted like an actual
Jeez.
return for Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, just a hunch, maybe. Um, but anyway, very funny. If you get a chance, check out the podcast. I don't remember which one it is, but Bobby Clarke popping off, which is rare because you don't really hear senior advisors doing podcasts, let alone media in general. Like, I know I asked the Canucks to speak with Stan Smeal a couple of years ago to do a story, and they were like, "Yeah, no." And that was in the midst of the post
Now,
Trevor Linden era,
now we
and
do know.
so
Yeah, we know a lot more about them now. You might be if you ask now, you might be able to get them if you
that's
wanted.
true. Maybe.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, I have the
times have
podcast.
changed.
It's the Cam and
Ian
Strick
Strick. Oh
podcast
yeah,
by
it's
Cam
Cam.
Jansen and Andy Strickland. So
Yes, both blues guys. It's a blues show, I believe.
yeah, so it's very funny because yeah, I was just thinking like imagine now like Stan Smeal goes on like Donnie and Dolly and he just chews out the Benning Weisbrod era for like how they overrode bracket and just like butchered their last 2 drafts because
Yeah,
they picked terrible players. Like that'd be so funny and so
it.
amazing.
Yeah,
You have to like
it's
respect
yeah,
the juice, the drama. Like
yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, Bobby Clarke is the guy, of course, the guy who would do that. Like like in Stan Smeal's case, I don't think he ever would. He's too
He'd be
like
too
nice. He's too
professional
nice.
about it.
Yeah, he is much more
He
the
knows how to lay
quintessential
low, right?
Canadian. He's the quintessential Canadian in that instead of like being like super loud and like out about it, I'm just gonna be passive aggressive about it and like
Yeah.
make a few like subtle jabs in instead. Like that's a very Canadian thing to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's Stan Smeal's style more. Like Bobby Clarke obviously has always been very open, a very like open book for that kind of stuff and has no problem putting beef out in the open like that. I wanted to ask you two questions for you. I want to ask you one, here's what I'm thinking. Do you think that Bobby Clarke goes and does that if Hextall goes and takes a GM job anywhere but the Pittsburgh Penguins? Because I honestly think it's just that part of it is just that.
Yeah, it might be
It's
like
the
obviously like
defying the Flyers legend to go to their arch rival in Pennsylvania. Like, I wonder if he had just gone to, I
it
don't know, like the Coyotes, like
yeah.
would Bobby Clarke go as hard after him? I don't think he would.
Yeah, I think because he's going to like a division rival and it's probably like very frustrating when Pittsburgh now with Hextall like kind of in a executive position is succeeding kind of like obviously in spite of Hextall. Like I don't think he's really done anything to put a mark on that team except for like a bunch of moves that were made before he was GM. Like that's all Jim Rutherford basically, the team that was built right now. Um and for them, I'm sure they're like now we're stuck with all of Hextall's mistakes, like you saying, all the picks that aren't going to pan out. Like, so we're stagnating right now, and we're left with dealing with his crap while he gets to succeed elsewhere. And meanwhile, we're just like going nowhere fast. We're gonna lose Giroux in the offseason to UFA. Like, it's just going to happen. So I'm sure he's like completely pissed. Um, but yeah, like maybe if he goes to Seattle and
Oh yeah, that was
maybe
also
he
on the
doesn't say
table. I forgot
anything.
about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I was thinking about this today. I always mix up Ron Hextall with Dave Haxtall and Ron
Oh.
Francis because
Oh, interesting.
I like obviously Haxtall sounds like Hextall, and then Ron Francis, and then Ron Hextall. It's just all very confusing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I'm in a similar spot, but like instead I keep thinking like my mind keeps going, wow, that's really like shocking that Bobby Clarke would sewer like the guy who won him like 2 Stanley Cups. And I remember, no, that was actually Bernie Parent, but because they kind of played in, they both cut because the Parent was like the 70s goalie for the Flyers, and then Hextall was the 80s and parts of the 90s for them, right? So like it
Yeah,
kind of feels like, oh, of course they overlapped, but actually I don't think they ever did as teammates. They might have like for a year or two in like the late 80s, but I
right.
don't think so. I don't think so. So it's like one of those things where it's like I kept going like, oh my God, like imagine talking about like your former like Stanley Cup champion goaltender and then being like, oh wait, no, that's the other guy. There's two of them. There's
Yeah.
two
Oh,
Flyers
right.
goaltenders. That's it. It's just Parent and Hextall. They've never had another one. Um, and then the other question I wanted to ask you, in line with the whole idea of like, oh, taking Makar over Nolan Patrick. If we were redrafting, we are technically coming up on like 5 years since that draft. That's the Pedersen draft as well. Where if you were redrafting, like we'll say, I don't know, top 10, maybe, like you don't have to go through all of them, but like if you're drafting the top 10, what difference do you think you see like from that point to now? I have because like
Hmm.
from personal standpoint, I don't think there's any way Elias Pettersson drops to the Canucks at 5. Like there's no way. He's gone by number 2 in my opinion, at least, if not going first overall. Like there's no way. It's him and Makar. Those are the two.
I think Makar goes number one.
I think it is, like, I think just based on the rarity of how good Makar is as a defenseman, yes, he probably would go number 1. It depends on, like, did New Jersey want a defenseman more than a forward, though, at the time, I think. Like, but I could easily see it going, like, those two jumping between the two. Like,
I mean, I think Makar had like a 3-point night tonight against Nashville.
he's so good.
Like
It's
he's
not
fucking
fair.
ridiculous. And like
It's
it's
not
so
fair.
stupid. Like I can't.
They have him and Bowen
And
Byram, like, good lord.
he's a right shot. Like his
Ridiculous.
skating is so good. Like I think in any redraft, I think it's a mistake not having him first overall. Like
Yeah,
like Pedersen's really good. Like don't get me wrong, but
Is that
Like
just not due to, like, Pettersson's struggles, though, lately? Like, wouldn't it be a lot closer
y-
of a 1 and 2
I,
had that not been for that?
I think the market for right shot defensemen now kind of proves just how valuable having a Cale Makar on your
Yeah.
roster could be. The fact
Yeah,
that
you
he
mu
is
yeah.
an immediate Norris contending defenseman in his rookie year, basically. Uh, a near point per game. Like it's outrageous what he's accomplishing as young as he is. Like it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. He should be a de facto number one. I think Patterson would be a clear number two. And
Easily.
then I mean, I think Patrick and Heishier, I think at this point they probably slide like out of top five, basically, now that you know like
Yeah.
what Heiskanen can bring, what
Nick Suzuki.
yeah,
Uh,
like I think they both slide out just because of how like they're good players, but they're just not there's clearly like a tier of dynamic stars in Makar, Patterson, Suzuki, and then Heiskanen to a lesser extent. And then
like,
there's like
Jason Robertson didn't go till 39, and he nearly won
yeah,
the Calder last year.
yeah,
Uh,
there's a lot of talent in that draft. It's just I don't think like now
Marty
obviously
Necas. Marty
with the benefit
Necas.
yeah.
There's another one.
But yeah, just the benefit of hindsight, like I just don't think those two probably go in the top
Yeah.
five
I
anymore.
think Heischer is still, like, close, like, he's still in there because of how consistently he performs. He's a captain now for the Devils, like, he's clearly a big part
Oh,
of
you
their
mean
plans.
Patrick?
Or no, Heischer for the Devils, Nico Heischer. Like, he's got 167 points, 260 games. He maybe hasn't been first overall good, like, Pettersson has more points than him. I believe in, 60 less games played, he has 3 more points. So, like, because Pettersson right now leads the entire draft class in points, out of that group. And then, yeah, you got Heiskanen in there, like, the Drake Batherson didn't go till 121. Like, there are some really good players in there. I think Heischer still has a clear case to be in the top 5. Nolan Patrick, like, it's a little bit of a
It's tough for him
wonky one
because he's like
because
been injured so much that like
yeah,
I mean
which is
they
why it
haven't
also kinda
derailed
rubbed
his
me the
career,
wrong
but
way that they were really going after Nolan Patrick on that one, because 'cause I'm like,
yeah, it's
he
like
had injury
it's out of his
problems that, like,
control,
you
right?
couldn't that oh, and, like, there was the whole Robin Leonard thing insinuating that the Flyers kinda made it worse.
There,
Like, it's not good. Like, I
the,
don't really love that they were really going after him for that one. Like,
there
I
was
don't
also
know.
the I mean
Not
his
that they
comment
can't critique Hextall, it's just about the
yeah,
player
like it's
himself.
totally fine, but like yeah, just to close out, there's that one defenseman for Philadelphia in their system who blew out his knee, I think, twice in the last
Jeez.
like few years, or like I think he's basically blown out his ACL in both knees like 3 times in the last like 4 years.
Like a
I think
big
that
name
I think the
guy?
draft was oh it's 2013, so Sammy Moran. So
Oh,
that
Sam
I mean
Moran, yeah.
that's before Hextall's time, I believe, like 2013. But I wonder if Bobby Clark's lumping in like, oh well, he's a former first round pick, so we've got because I think he said we have 2 or 3 firsts that aren't going to pan out. But in Hextall's like technically Hextall's time is only they only had 4 first round picks and 2 of them are NHLers, so it's like how can you really like he must be lumping in some of these guys who just like kind of
Ivan
had
Provorov's
no
been
chance.
awesome. Shane
Yes, yeah.
Gostisbehere was good up until they really, like,
They were like,
torpedoed his
stop
value.
being
Like,
good.
yeah,
Stop playing offense. Play boring.
like, they really torpedoed him. Like, Hextall did end up being right on the whole, "Hey, maybe don't play Carter Hart too quickly. Don't be, like,
Yeah.
crazy to don't, like, go all in on him right away. Give him some time
Yeah.
to develop," and the Flyers didn't listen, and they immediately throw Hart in there. He does great for the first year, and then he's completely cooked by year 2. Like, hey, maybe you should have listened to the goalie on that one. Like, I don't know. I don't know enough about the Flyer situation to really be like, oh well, which former GM is right here? Because Bobby Clark was also GM of the Flyers for a long time too, and I think he was GM one like the Eric Lindros years when they wasted the prime years like the Legion of Doom, right?
Rough.
But like like so like it's really comes down to which Flyers GM that underperformed do you really want to whose side do you want to take here? Which former player alumni do you want to take here? And it's like, at the end of the day, it's kind of just feels like one of those, like, it feels a little bit like one of those intergenerational, like, squabbles between different eras of guys, like the different eras, different thought processes, like, and just with, like, there's just some rivalry beef in there. Like, either way, the Flyers Penguins games, as if they weren't already must watch, like, they're just going to get all the more intense now.
Even more spicy now. I'm sure
Yeah.
maybe Hextall will do some media and he'll like hit back at Philly and be like, "Hey, well, I told him not play Carter Hart, and they probably just tanked his value. At least I know what to do with it when it comes to goalies. But
I
hey,
have
good
Tristan
luck."
Jarry. What do you got? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's right. Like, you just go
Yeah.
after that. Speaking of goalies, one last thing before we go.
Mhm.
Tuukka Rask is back. I wanted to throw that in there because good for Tuukka Rask. He,
What a bargain contract, hey?
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, he's coming off the hip surgery, I believe, in the off season. He hadn't played. Remember, you and I both talked about it at the beginning of the year that the Bruins thing, right, is that they're going to find out pretty quickly how much Tuukka Rask was really masking some problems for them and really, like, doing a lot of the heavy lifting for them, especially more so towards Boston fans. I think the management knew. Like, I think management got it the whole time, but the fans sure didn't, and they love to just give Tuukka Rask a bunch of crap for nothing, completely unprompted. And now they're all celebrating that he's coming back, and you're just like sitting there like, I have receipts here where you were like, this guy sucks and he's terrible. Like, and again, that was no like shot at Jeremy Swayman or who's their other goaltender underdeveloped. It's not Vladar anymore. It's who am I blanking on here?
Swayman, Jeremy Swayman,
Ullmark, Swayman and Ullmark. They did there was the whole gif of them the other day doing their elaborate goalie like high five or like secret handshake. That was pretty funny. I loved that. We love goaltending duos that get along. It's always makes for more fun hockey. But like, yeah, like again, they're just not Tuukka Rask. There's nothing against them. It's just that Tuukka Rask
they've been playing really good. It's just like, if you have the option to have Tuukka Rask on your roster for $1 million, you're gonna take the option because you can bury the contract if his hip problems prove to be problematic and he can't play.
Yeah,
that's an easily variable contract. So that's
it's good for Tuukka because Tuukka deserves some, like, I'm a little bit of an I'm back motherfuckers kind of run here where he's like, I'm gonna show you.
He absolutely deserves like one fuck you to Boston fans who were like, we're trying to like run him out of town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he
you almost wish he had gone to a more grateful fan base, like he had gone to elsewhere. I don't know. I mean, hey, like, God, we talked about on the last show, like who Yaroslav Halak might be an interesting pickup for, like Vegas, Colorado, Edmonton. I imagine any of those teams would have bent over backwards to pick up Tuukka Rask for $1 million. Like,
but he's on the fuck you tour right now.
Yeah, he's going for it. So, like, good for him. Good for Tuukka. I just want to see that guy succeed. He's the one Bruin I've ever liked.
Yeah, that's true. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Anyways, folks, thank you for tuning into this very sexually charged episode of the CreaseCast. I am Cody Sievertson. You can follow me on Twitter at Cody Sievertson and my website, ahlnucksharvest.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/CreaseCast. We have $1 and $5 tiers. We appreciate your support no matter what level you can support us at. It helps us buy coffee. It helps us survive dealing with the show, paying for studio time or what it was, a StreamYard time, whatever it's called.
StreamYard time. We might not need that for long though, so we'll see. But
it's true. But we appreciate this. We appreciate your support very much. Lachlan, where can the fine folks find your work?
You can find me at Canucks Army. I write there pretty frequently. I had 2 articles come out today, including one talking about the importance of this road trip for the Canucks, and then the post game wrap up, which I wrote just before we started. I finished just before we started recording. It did not mention Kodak Black in any way, shape, or form because it was strictly on ice performance, not a bedroom performance. And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Lach and the Crease. And I believe that is everything on my end. What about you, Cody?
I think I already did me, but anyway.
Oh, you already did. Okay. Yeah. That's how tired I am,
Lachlan
guys.
is tired and needs
3 hours
to sleep.
of sleep. I need to go sleep after I edit this podcast and upload.
Yeah, somehow he's gonna edit this before going to bed.
Oh, That reminds me, check out twitch.tv/CreaseCast. We
Oh yeah.
have Twitch streaming capabilities now. I did a stream simulating the Canucks Senators postponed game on NHL 97. Playing it was Alexander McGillney and Pavel Bure going up against a young Daniel Alfredson, along with why am I blanking on his name right now? Oh my god,
You're tired.
Good
Don't
Russian,
worry about it.
the good Russian, the really good Alexei Yashin. That's who I'm thinking of. Alexei Yashin was on that team. And
You
Radek
need some
Bonk.
sleep,
How could I
buddy.
forget about Radek Bonk as well?
His son is eligible for the draft this year, actually. Oliver
Oh
Bonk.
God, I feel old now.
Yes.
And yeah, go check that out. We might do some more streams. It might be me playing hockey. It might be Cody doing.
We're gonna
COD.
try and find a way
It
for
might-
me to remotely stream COD somehow.
Yeah, because
we don't know how, but we're gonna figure it
you
out.
play video games more than I do, so it
I do.
honestly makes
I
more
do.
sense for you to do them. It doesn't even have to be hockey related. We're just gonna throw some stuff out there. We might just do Among Us, maybe. Maybe we'll get some.
I'll just Twitch stream myself tracking AHL hockey and entering it into Excel and how monotonous and boring it is.
Honestly,
that sounds exciting.
Actually, like, here's the thing. You joke, but literally I believe one of the most popular TikTok accounts is a woman who literally just teaches you Excel tips. Like, I'm not even joking. That's an actual thing. I think she's got over 1 million like followers just on teaching people, this is how you format this on an Excel spreadsheet, because she's good at it. And honestly, you throw a lo-fi beats track over like a spreadsheet or any like stat stuff that you're working on. Honestly, people would be interested in that. So we might have to work on that.
We will. Until that comes out, though, thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate your support, and we'll catch you on the next episode where we will hopefully have more hockey to talk about. Bye, everybody.
Bye.